Everyone, today we are going to talk about chapter 3, which is all about time management. So let's get started. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the benefits of time management, how you can do it in college, what procrastination is all about. I call it the dreaded P word, how to manage your time, um, how to figure out when you should be doing things and how to prioritize those things, and some strategies to help you, not just with time management, but also task management. Okay, so here are some questions I want you to ask yourself before we get started. If you regularly procrastinate that don't interest you, on tasks that don't interest you, if you have any time management strategies, if you have difficulty prioritizing because you don't really know what is and is not important, and how pleased are you with your ability to manage your time? Okay, so objectives for this chapter. Um, Try to figure out how time management may be different now than in high school. Um, why you may procrastinate, the effects of these procrastination, times that you have, and how to overcome it, how to evaluate how well you're doing with time management, why it's important to prioritize, the importance of goal setting and motivating, and some tactics on how you can manage your time the best. Okay, so um, if you start mismanaging your time, that can put into motion a whole series of events that can jeopardize your success. So, for example, let's say you procrastinate on your English paper, okay, and you decide to clean your room instead. So, you procrastinate your English paper to the last minute. But when you do your English paper, that would have been time that you should have been studying for your math test. So you put off and you cram for your math test, but the time that you were cramming for your math test is when you should have been working on your lab report, right? So you can see how it's a very deep slope that can occur if you procrastinate on one thing. Everything else kind of gets away from you. Okay. So when you procrastinate, let's say you have to withdraw from some classes because you have some missed assignments. Let's say that you fail some classes because you procrastinated and you have to retake them for grade forgiveness. It could put you back and you may not graduate on time. So in the long run, 2 extra semesters of college can cost you almost $150,000. So this is how, because it's going to cost you more in tuition, textbooks, and fees, right? Especially if you get into excess credit hours and don't have bright futures paying for it anymore if you have bright futures. And then let's say you had to take out more student loans to get through these semesters. Then you have the interest on those student loans. And then let's say your first year out of college, you're going to make $46,000. You lose that income. And then retirement earnings, let's say that your employer was going to put in 10% on your retirement with compound interest, that equates to $82,000. That's $150,000 for procrastinating. And is it worth it really to procrastinate when you know you can miss out on 150,000? I hope you say no. All right. So you may find that managing your time is different than in high school. In high school, your day is pretty much subs- you know, preset out for you. You know when you have first period, second period, third period. You know when your study guides due. You know when you have your test. If you miss a test, you can make it up, right? It's not like that in college, right? You are in charge of your own time management. And you're not going to have a teacher following up with you or probably allowing you to do tests over if you don't do well. Not as much extra credit, no test corrections, right? So for the last 12 years, your time is managed by others. Now you are responsible for your own time. So you also used to have like homework every night, right? Now you have the syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and it's up to you to actually do your work. So it's a very different time. Okay, so you are the determining factor of when and how you do your work. Okay. So 82% of teens said that their writing assignments were only like a single paragraph to a page. You could have a 5, 10 page paper in college. Upper level, it can get more, right? And so it could be really easy to try to think about procrastinating on a paper that big. But what I always recommend to students is trying to break it down into more manageable chunks. So maybe today you do an outline, right? Tomorrow you extend the introduction paragraph and do a larger outline of what's your thesis statement going to be. What are going to be the 3 main subjects that you're going to cover? Maybe you work on finding articles for those 3 subject, body paragraphs. And then you review article 1, on day 4, article 2 on day 5. So you break it into larger chunks, because if you just look to writing a 5 page paper, it can be so overwhelming you don't even know where to start. So that's why it's called scaffolding. Starting small and piece together, you will get to that final paper. And you can see with the literature review, that's what we try to do in this class. You have the research check, which is coming up, where you have what are the articles that you are going to write. Before that, you did some modules on how to find articles with the library, how to conduct a literature review. After the research check, you're going to have the research summary worksheets that you're going to work on. And then you're going to write the paper. And then you're going to do a presentation on the paper, right? So we kind of piece it together so it's not overwhelming all at once. Okay. So there's lots of ways people procrastinate. Some people like to clean because at least they're being productive, right? Some people will go on a Netflix binge. I can tell you, if Netflix ever asks you, "Are you still watching?" You probably watch Netflix too long. Um, and there's something called the Sunday night guilt cycle. So let's say you have something due Monday morning, right? You Friday, you're like, "Oh, I have the whole weekend to work on this," right? So Friday night you go out. Saturday morning you sleep in because it's Saturday morning. Maybe there's a football game on Saturday. You're like, "Well, I'm not going to study on game day," right? So then you go to the game and then you sleep in on Sunday. And then that's when the procrastination starts putting in. You're like, "Oh, well, I need to do laundry. Oh, so and so needs a ride to Walmart. Oh, I'm going to go eat lunch with this person. Oh, I'm just going to watch TV for a little bit. I'm just going to get on Instagram for a little bit." And then it's like 11 o'clock at night and you haven't even started, right? And then you feel guilty, right? And then you get a little anxious. So that's why I call it the Sunday night guilt cycle. Okay, so this is when procrastination is a big problem. When it always happens, every subject, right? Especially those subjects you don't like, because those are the ones you typically don't want to work on, right? Um, you find out you have too many tasks in a little time. Um, when the task being avoided is very important, like studying for a midterm or writing that paper. So these are reasons why people procrastinate. You don't have enough energy, right? So you're just so lethargic or so tired, you can't even think about working. You can't focus on it, right? Or it's like a fear of failure. This happens sometimes when you're like, I don't even want to start because I don't know what the outcome's going to be, right? So those are the 3 reasons, um, main reasons people procrastinate, or you just don't want to do it, right? So these are the effects that procrastination has. You lose time, right? Especially if you just are like on social media for hours on end, that's like wasted time, right? Your goals that you set at the beginning of the semester about making a certain GPA or getting into a certain major or, whatever it may be, those goals, you know, aren't met. Your self-esteem may go down, right? Especially if your GPA takes a tank and you're used to making a 4.0 in high school. And also stress. You stress, like, it is a very fatiguing thing to procrastinate because it's always in the back of your mind that you should be doing this. And it is like that gnawing little brother or sister who's always there bugging you. That's what procrastination does. Okay, so these are some things you could do. Get organized, know what's due when, and don't just put the due date. Break up that assignment or that paper or whatever in smaller chunks and put on your calendar when you're going to do those smaller chunks and scaffold your studying and say, I'm going to work on the outline on this day. I'm going to work on the introduction paragraph on this day. And give yourself parameters so that you're not putting it off to the last minute. Put aside distractions, turn your phone off. Like your phone actually has an off button, like turn it off, not just do not disturb, because then it can be still very tempting, but turn it off. If you need to let your mom know, hey, I'm turning my phone off, you can do that. Reward yourself. Okay, if I get an A on this paper, I'm going to go to Cold Stone. Okay, or I'm going to go to the, I'm going to buy those pair of shoes on Amazon I've been wanting to get, right? I like this. Be accountable and tell someone else. So some of you may have had accountability partners with the sport or at the gym, right? That you might say, okay, you are going to get me to the gym and I want you to call me out if I don't go, right? You can have them do that for academics too. Okay. Say, I need to study for 5 hours on Saturday. If you see me procrastinating, call me out on it, right? Okay. So this is another thing you can do. You can actually say how much time you think it's going to take to do something and set that on your calendar. And I'm going to give you an example here. So you see here, it has, your classes, on here, but you also, so you know when you have class, but what's missing here is what you're going to do all these breaks. So what I want you to do is look at the schedule and look at all these break times in between classes and when you have like we have internship training, we have your shift at work, um, we have a volunteer activity, right? So everything's color coded too. You want to figure out what you can do with these blocks of time in between, right? What you can do is change this schedule and put in, for example, on Friday from 2 until, 4:30, put what you're going to do during that time. If you just have this empty, it's a lot easier to procrastinate during that time than if you say, this is what I'm going to do during this break time. Okay. So you can either get a Google Calendar on Canvas. You can add appointments on Canvas too, if that's where all your assignments are. You can do that there. But just find the tool that works for you. Okay, if it's old-fashioned, paper or pen, you could do that too. And I want you to think about what behaviors help or hinder when it comes to managing time, right? So if you're with a certain friend and that friend is a negative influence, don't hang out with that friend, especially midterm week, right? Um, Once you do this with the time on task, like let's say you're going to study 2 hours a week on for Spanish, you can kind of see how you did on that Spanish test based on what you kind of scheduled for you to study for that. If you got an A, you're like, okay, 2 hours was good, right? If you got an F, be like, okay, maybe I should double or triple that 2 hours to either 4 or 6 hours this week, right? So you can kind of see what the results are based on the time spent on the task, right? And kind of fine tune it. Now, let's say you put 2 hours and you got 100 and you're like, oh yeah, I way overstudied for that. But then for biology, you didn't do as hot. Be like, okay, well, let me shave some time off my Spanish allotted time, give that extra time over to biology, right? Still make a decent grade in Spanish, but now biology gets the attention it deserves, okay? So you kind of have to do a balancing act. And you're not going to know this. It's going to change semester to semester based on the classes and the professors you have. Okay, so that's how you can predict how long a task will take, right? Like studying for a test, based on the results you get. You can also self kind of grade yourself, right? So let's say you have flashcards that you created for vocab words for Spanish. When you're doing it, you're going to have a I got it pile and I don't got it pile, right? You might have done this in high school. You're like agua, water. Okay, I got it, right? And you go until all the cards are in the I got it pile. Okay. You keep on doing the I don't got it pile, like until they're in the I got it pile, right? The more you do it, the better you're going to know that information. So that's how you're going to predict, for this week's vocabulary, it took you 2 hours to get it all right. Next week, probably 2 hours again, when you're on a different subject. In Spanish. Like if you were talking about foods and then you talk about clothing, probably take around the same amount of time. Be accurate in your timekeeping. Don't lie to yourself, right? So if you say you're going to do 2 hours and half of that time you spend on Instagram, you're just lying to yourself. So be accurate in your timekeeping. Some tasks can be dependent upon completion of others first. So for example, you might need to study Spanish before you work on um, a worksheet, right? You might need to know all the foods before you do this assignment, right? And everything is going to be different, right? Biology is not going to take the same amount of time to study as Spanish. Okay, so here are some examples of how long it takes to do different things. This has an example of for a quiz, 60 minutes per chapter. Okay, it's a good rule for you to think about. Um, If it's a short writing assignment, about 60 minutes per page, right? Simple homework questions, 1-2 minutes per question. This is just a rule. But this is how you can kind of forecast how long it's going to take to do different assignments. Okay, here's some apps that might be able to help you with task management too. Okay, so it's important to manage your time, but also prioritize the time that you have. So we are going to talk about the steps involved when you prioritize your time. How do you deal with situations when maybe your friends' priorities are not yours? What to do when your priorities conflict? And then how to make sure you complete tasks. Okay, so first thing you want to do is make sure you understand what each task is all about and make decisions on how important it is, the impact on others, and urgencies. So this is President Eisenhower created this decision matrix of what decisions or how he should spend his time, right? So this is an example of something urgent and important, a paper due tomorrow, apply for the internship by deadline. Okay, so if you miss either of those, it's going to be a really bad outcome. Important but not urgent, getting your flu shot, right? Or exam next week. Urgent but not important, I like this, laundry. Like if you were down to your last, pair of shorts, this is an urgent situation, but it's not very important. I am, I remember in college sometimes having to go to Walmart and buy clothes because I did not have laundry done. Not urgent, not important, check social or a TV show, right? So this is something that you can do to prioritize what you should do first. It's this matrix. Okay. So when you have some priorities that do conflict, what do you do? Like, for example, family and school, two important priorities. But what do you do when it's your mom's birthday and you have a big exam on that same day? What do you do? Right? It's a tough decision. So you need to know like what you need to do, what you need, like what can you do? Like if you know ahead of time, be like, okay, how can I compromise this situation? Right? So if your mom's birthday is on October 1st, and you have a test on October 1st. Be like, okay, maybe I can go to dinner with my mom, right? And not spend the day with her because I have the test. Or let's say the test is on October 2nd. Be like, okay, can I study on September 29th and 30th and like have a down pat so I can spend the day before the test with my mom? So you kind of have to give and take, but you have to plan your time ahead of time. You can't just wait till October 1st and make that decision. So you sometimes have to kind of give and take here. Okay, so pre-class prep. Um, you need to know before you go into, a class where you have a test or something like that. You need to know what you you need to know what is expected of you. You need to have all your ducks in a row. You can't just like start off in the middle of the semester and do this. You have to kind of do the work to get there. Okay, so in order to make the best use of your time in class, you want to make sure to prep before you go into class. We've talked about this before, that if you if your brain knows what to expect in class by, reading over the chapter before you go to class, or at least looking at the subject headers, your brain is going to be able to take in the information because it's going to be familiar to it, right? So making sure that you're doing the reading ahead of time is great. During class, you should definitely take notes. Okay, this is one of those unwritten rules of college. Ask questions for clarification. Have questions from your reading that you want to ask in class that you don't understand or that are muddy points, right? And after class, review your notes. Make sure you understand what homework is coming. You want to also ask any questions and rewrite your notes, okay? Because maybe you took notes and then you read the chapter again and the chapter had additional information that the instructor didn't talk about. You can embed those that new information in your notes. This is all really important, especially because you're going to put that information into your long-term memory, which is so important for retrieval when you have an exam. Okay, where you do your work can be as important as when you do your work. So you want to find the best place on campus to do your work. The worst place you could ever study is your bed, because your body wants to fall asleep on your bed. Your body is trained to sleep on your bed. It is not the most alert when you're in the bed. You also want to know when you should study. If you're a morning person, you should study in the morning, right? If you're a late night person, you should stay late at night. You should also get rid of all the distractions around you. Library is a great place to study. Maybe in Starbucks, if you can handle the distractions. A hammock on Memory Mall, whatever works for you. You want to find your spot. You also want to make sure that you have goals for yourself. And that you keep up with those goals and you keep up with the plan, right? That's when those accountability partners can be so helpful. Okay. Motivation. You need to think about what the goals are and why you came to college. If your goal is to go to med school, you should not be procrastinating on your bio and chem homework, right? Because that is going to be detrimental. And make sure you set goals that motivate you. Goals should be SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Goals like I want to lose weight do not work. You want to say I want to lose 10 pounds um, by December 1st so that I can finish that wedding dress, right? And I'm going to do that by going to the gym 5 times a week and limiting myself to 1,300 calories. Okay, so I want you to look at this and see why a goal would or would not be SMART. Okay, SMART goals are easier to complete because there's no wiggle room there. Okay, so I want you to read this. These are different ways to say motivated. Okay. Making sure that you're breaking goals down to manageable tasks makes it so it's not very overwhelmed. Okay, these are all great. Okay. One thing that's helpful is if you think about, I want to get 3 things done today. What are the 3 most important things to finish that day? And if you do it, you're going to feel proud of yourself. You're going to kind of pat yourself on the back. The Pomodoro technique, setting work intervals followed by a short break. So maybe you study for 20 minutes, take a 5-minute break, say another 20 minutes, take another 5-minute break, so that you're not just stressing out. Eat the frog. Do the hardest thing on your to-do list first. The hardest thing, like studying for your chem midterm, right? Or doing your literature review paper. Once you finish that hard task, you're gonna feel so proud of yourself. It's like when you submit it in Canvas and that confetti comes, right? And then it's not gonna be a fatiguing task, right? It's not gonna be in the back of your mind weighing you down. Okay. We already talked about chunking up and kind of breaking down big assignments into smaller tasks. And look, like that calendar I showed you, look for wasted time during the day and make sure you can be like, okay, I have 2.5 hours. I can go to the library for those 2.5 hours. Maybe have a lunch break in there. But, you want to make sure you just don't have hours with nothing to do, right? Short breaks are fine for doing short-term assignments, like the assignments in this class. In summary, poor time management may cost you, may make you not graduate on time. Um, there's lots of different effective time management techniques. Use technology like calendar systems to your advantage. Set reminders, prioritize your tasks. Make sure you set some goals for yourself and then celebrate those goals once you have it. Make sure you're motivated, or find someone to be an accountability partner to help motivate you. And please don't procrastinate, is the dreaded P word, like I mentioned before. And that is it for chapter 3. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you for chapter 4.